All right, what's going on, everyone? The semi-finals of the Rugby World Cup are right around the corner. In fact, they start tonight. So it's about time I give my previews for these matches. And because I'm going to get accused of being biased no matter what, I might as well go ahead and show how the two huge underdogs in these matches actually do have a chance. I'll then put my money where my mouth is and give predictions. Now, these predictions are not, it's absolutely not betting advice for you. I'm not going to do that because my quarterfinals were 50%. I've actually done not too bad. I've picked, have I? No, I've done horrendously. The only team that I saw getting this far, I don't know, New Zealand and England in my predictions from 2 months ago. So we'll see. We'll give my, we'll actually do the predictions after. But for now, let's look at the two teams. Before we do that, though, if you're new here, my name is TJ. I am the guy behind Rugby Muscle. That is the YouTube channel you are now watching. We specialize in rugby strength and conditioning for amateur rugby players, along with nutrition advice. If that's something that will interest you, either to increase your performance, aka your fitness, conditioning, strength, speed, all of that stuff that you need for rugby performance and to perform as a better human, we'll put the links in the description below, and you can always absolutely hit subscribe. And if not, absolutely join me in the comments below. I always enjoy reading and responding to at least the first 100 or so comments that I get on this YouTube channel. And I'm sure the fact that I said that I'm going to be viewed as biased, the fact that I'm going to show that Argentina and England might even at least have a chance in these matches is going to stir up some comments. But of course, let me know your 2 cents in the comments below. Love to hear them or read them and respond. So yes, I do think that these two teams have a chance. We've been looking at these semi-finals. They've almost not got us anywhere near as much hype as the quarterfinals. And I understand that because these two semi-finals are completely different to any of the quarterfinals from last week. And it makes them completely different because we've got two clear favourites, two clear underdogs. All of the quarterfinals, even of the varying standards or perceived standards at least that we saw of the matches, they were all four of them were nail biters, and all four of them until the last 5 minutes at least were within one score. So they were really close. These two matches, I'm saying that Argentina and England have a chance. I'm also saying there's absolute possibility that they could both be complete blowouts, and that would not none of those things would surprise me. The only thing that would surprise me is if if Argentina and or England absolutely blow away South Africa and or New Zealand. That would be the only thing that would surprise me from these games. An England or an Argentina win wouldn't. A blowout from either New Zealand or South Africa would not surprise me. But yeah, there's a clear favourite with these matches. So we've got Argentina and New Zealand. We're previewing first. These two teams, very similar to last week. I see that New Zealand have recalled Mark Talea, so he was put on the naughty step for a week. Leicester Fainga'anuku scored a try, played really well. You can bugger off to the naughty step now, Leicester, mate. We're going to have Mark Talea back in, and I don't know. I mean, I thought he played really well. I thought he could absolutely deserve to keep his spot, but obviously they're going to try and stick with a side that they've been focusing on for this World Cup, and Mark Talea is clearly a part of that. Now, other than that, these teams are basically unchanged. This New Zealand team was absolutely prepared, 100% to face that Ireland team. Now, whether they're going to be able to adapt and make that change to prepare for the way Argentina are going to play, we're going to find out. I'm not sure that they're going to be, but I'm also not sure that they need to be. If you look at the game plan that they played against Argentina, they kicked a ton. They kicked lots. And they were comfortable with Ireland going through their phase play and just fronting up on defence and bringing that physicality. And I think that for the most part, Argentina are going to be comfortable with that. So I think New Zealand are going to look to keep a lot more ball in hand, especially when you look at the 2 tries that Wales did score and the couple of times they broke the line. They had a lot of success with just lapses in concentration for the Argentina team. This week, if Argentina are going to have any chance to win this game, they're going to have to make the game ugly, and they're going to have 100% focus, just like New Zealand did last week, on their defence, and they're going to have no lapses in concentration. The fact that Ireland had maybe 1 or 2 lapses in concentration and that cost them shows that you cannot do this against this New Zealand side. New Zealand tend to sometimes switch off a little bit in defence. They do not switch off in attack. If there's a gap to be had and if there's a opportunity to score a try, there's a very good chance that they'll take it, or they'll at least see it and go for it. And if a handling error comes up, that's a different thing. They're still looking for that opportunity to score. They're still taking that opportunity. It's just that the skills occasionally, as with every single player ever, will let them down. Now, last week, I heard that New Zealand committed 0 handling errors. And if that's the case, firstly, that is unbelievable. That is a ridiculously good stat. Secondly, no wonder they won that game. And thirdly, is it possible that they can maintain that intensity for 2 weeks straight, especially going into this as the favourites? That's where I'm not sure. And I think if you look back, we're looking at this match like Argentina have no chance. We've probably looked at every single game that Argentina have ever played against New Zealand like Argentina have no chance. And we look at their history. In 2020, they got a win. And in 2020, they won after spending 3 weeks, I think, locked up in a hotel room doing body weight workouts in their hotel rooms, completely they didn't even have access to their own private training where they could do it as a squad. They were all completely hidden away. And they came out of the hotel room and in less than a week of preparation managed to beat the All Blacks. Now, that's the All Blacks coming off of, a good deal of game they played the Super Rugby before that, so that they don't even have that excuse. Yeah, that was just a huge win for Argentina at the time. Now, obviously, New Zealand avenged that loss a couple times, but then you look to last year in Christchurch, Argentina managed to turn them over. And I watched that game to see were there any special tactics. It wasn't the case. New Zealand just had a bit of an off day, and Argentina played ruthlessly both in attack and defence. And they're going to have to do the same again. They can't squander opportunities like they did against England earlier in the World Cup. That's going to be their only route to win. They're going to have to make it somewhat ugly. If it's a really open, free-flowing game, you're going to back New Zealand to win it. If they can make it a bit of a kicking battle, similar to the Ireland game last week, except Argentina have to step up and take more of their points than Ireland did. Think about the kicks that Ireland turned away last week. And if you think about both of those games on the top end of the draw, right, with France and South Africa and Wales and New Zealand and Ireland, both of those games were won by the team that was less naive, I would say, right? I know people said, there's nothing more that Ireland could have done and nothing more that France could have done. And I agree with that as far as preparation goes. But in the game, both teams were really naive. Argentina and England aren't going to be that naive, I don't think. Now, if you look back on Argentina's recent history, yes, they did. They played terribly against England. I don't think they're ever going to perform like that again. But even if they don't play terribly, they still need, even if they play 100% at their best, they still need New Zealand to have somewhat of an off day if they are going to get this win. They need big performances from 1 to 23. Everyone needs to be at their best if they're going to have a chance. They need to make it somewhat ugly. They need to take their shots at goal when they're on offer. They need to really step up on defense. They need to be squeaky clean at the breakdown whilst also being physical, which is one of the hardest things that you can do with rugby at this level, particularly against a team as confrontational with ball in hand as the All Blacks are. It's going to be difficult. But I do think that they have a chance. I'll go and do my prediction for this one after this. But before that, I will preview South Africa against England. This is almost rinse repeat, in fact, with this. Like, it's the same thing with South Africa beating France. South Africa had a specific game plan, it seemed, to beat the French. Two of their tries, you consider that both of those... Oh, actually, no, let's just deal with this game. You consider that South Africa beat France by a single score, and you consider that two of their tries came from kicks that like ended up bouncing and got kind of loose. First, you had Currently Arunsa score, and then secondly, you had Damien Dialende score, both from just bombs that hit the floor, were allowed to bounce, either poorly dealt with by Ramos or Damien Penaud, which they clearly identified, because one of the, actually, like, those kicks were kind of bombs, but they're also kind of cross-field, and they had 5 or 6 South African players under the ball, in and around that ball, waiting for it to bounce or get knocked somewhere, and then that's how they ended up scoring 2 of those tries. A third try was scored from a quick a quick turnover from the breakdown, and then out of nowhere they got through, got the kick. A little bit of a dodgy turnover, if I'm honest, but still a great try from Cheslin Colby. And then their fourth try was just a tap and go, and Eben Etzebeth targeted, he absolutely targeted the French 10. I think with this one, he's not going to target the English 10. Farrell's going to smash him if he runs down Owen Farrell's channel. I'm just joking. That was that was a troll comment, just because I know that's going to get people's... it's going to grind people's gears if I big up Owen Farrell, particularly against South Africa. So I shan't do that. But I do think that, mate, Jonathan Donty aside, England are going to be a little bit more potentially harder to break down. Now, I don't know. This game is the more I thought about it as the week's gone on, the more I've been thinking about, like, how do England have a chance in this? Clearly, they're going to be underdogs. But to say that they don't have a chance is fairly naive. So these are the 3 games, including the World Cup final, that they've had in the last 4 years. Before that, England also beat them at Twickenham. But like, if you go beyond 4 years, even if you've got similar players, those players clearly, I mean, even in the 3 years or 2 years since these games, there's been a bit of a decline, particularly from the English players, who appear to not have, like, this England team. If we go back and look at it, this England team on paper doesn't look all that bad, right? Potentially, you could argue Dan Cole a bit too old, Joe Marler maybe a bit too old, but both world-class scrummagers. So they've really they've gone with this setup to really make sure that South Africa don't get that early dominance at scrum time. They've had games where they have put England under the pump, and that was when, I think that was if last year's game, when I can't believe it was only 14 points that they won by, but it seemed like a lot more. It seemed like South Africa just absolutely dominated them. Like England had nothing at the scrum, and I think that was Carl Sinclair and Ellis Genge packing down the front row. So hopefully this one will be a little bit more parity at scrum time. I'm not going to talk about refs, although I did think I said in the review of last week, I thought Ben O'Keefe had a pretty poor game, but he's clearly, well, Rugby don't agree because they've put him in. So we'll see how he refs it. It doesn't really matter. The best team on the day is going to win it. I don't think, like, you could argue one-off decisions cost teams games, but also there's so many other one-off things that cost teams games that there's no point. The impacts are big enough that we should talk about them, but we don't have to attribute wins or losses to referees. I don't think that's fair. But yeah, as far as the recent history of England against South Africa, England got that 1-point win at Twickenham, and I watched a lot of that game back. There was nothing special England did overly. They had Freddie Stewart, who was always going to come back and play at 15, fielding the kicks. They also had Max Malins come on early because Manu Tuolangi scored early and then had to go off. They actually had Joe Marchant on the wing to start, and then I think he moved into centre as Max Malins came on early doors. So I think it's a similar sort of setup that England have gone for in this game. Now, for this to work, they have to have at least close to parity at scrum time, and they have to not be dominated in the line-out. But what they've gone for here, and I think this is the team that they've stuck with, not because they don't think Henry Arundel or other such players have the attacking nous to break other teams down. I think that they purely thought that this was going to be the fixture, and if it wasn't going to be this one, it was going to be against New Zealand. And they thought that the only way that they're going to win these games is by getting these players that are in this squad, in this England 23, enough reps together, enough game time together so that they can build a little bit of confidence and cohesion to go into this game. Because these, when you've got Johnny May, Elliot Daly, and Freddie Stewart, you've got players that are used to chasing kicks, being really annoying to the opposition underneath the high ball, potentially even challenging for it. Obviously, Freddie Stewart and Elliot Daly more so, as two guys that are both used to playing fullback. With Elliot Daly, you've also got the long boot. So England aren't going to look to play too much rugby. They've got Joe Marchant, who can hit it up all right, but can attack some gaps. You've got Manu Tuolagi. You know what you're going to get from him. And George Martin, who is underrated at carrying in the second row as well. I think they've gone with him over Ollie Chesham for that carrying. With that, they potentially have sacrificed a little bit at line-out time, but that's why they love Courtney Laws being at 6, because that gives them another option. He's probably England's best jackler at this point, yet he's also really good in the line-out, so that's the only way England's saying this. If South Africa can dominate either the scrum or the line-out, they win this game, and they blow this game away. And so that's the only way that England have a chance in this game. I'm not saying it's a huge chance, but I am saying that there is a chance, and I think that it's a bit unfair on both Argentina and England and their performances so far. I mean, is it that unfair though? Because neither of team have actually looked that impressive. So I'm second guessing myself as I'm saying this out loud, because it does sound ridiculous. And I think what I've done here is I've talked myself into a viewpoint, and as I'm recording this video, it's unraveling, because I'm thinking, no way, these two teams have had such an easier route into the semi-finals than South Africa and New Zealand that it's clear why New Zealand and South Africa are the favourites. So, right, it's time for me to give my predictions. I will do New Zealand versus Argentina first. Man, I mean, it's, again, I imagine most people up here are picking New Zealand. As much as I want, now, again, I'm going to be biased here. I want Argentina to win because that's just an easier match for England to have in the final if they make it there. And this match is obviously beforehand. If it was after and I knew that England are out, I wouldn't care who wins this. Maybe I'd like Argentina to win as the underdog. It's nice to see It'd be nice to see Argentina. It'd be nice to see England and Argentina in the final, purely from the fact that it's different. You know, even if England win, it's kind of different. If Argentina win, it's obviously very different. Coupled with the Uruguayan and the Chilean success in the World Cup, and also with rugby sort of growing in Brazil and where else? Paraguay a little bit. Rugby growing in South America is good. It's a good thing. It's difficult to manage the logistics from World Rugby, as I've already complained about a bunch, but it'd be nice to see a different winner. Whether that's going to happen here, I don't think so. I think New Zealand will win this fairly comfortably in the end. It will be close probably until around half-time, and then New Zealand will just sort of step out. I don't think they're carrying enough injuries. That's the only opportunity that potentially England and Argentina have here, or an extra opportunity that these two have, is that those quarterfinals were so intense. Both teams have got 6 days turnaround to go at it again. And you saw with England how intense they were 4 years ago against New Zealand in the semi-final. They then basically didn't show up against South Africa. And I just think that there is something there. And so as I come to my second prediction, the only undefeated team in this World Cup is going to remain undefeated. England are going to take this game by 6. Come at me, haters. That is my prediction. Look, watch me here. I'm going to lock this. How do I lock this in? Why can I only lock this one in? Here we go. I'm going to lock it in. England by 6. You can't change your pick. I'm not changing my pick. England are going to win this game. It's 100% an upset. But when you look at how England have been playing, they've been building towards playing against a team that wants to kick, a team that wants to, like, it's not that South Africa can't play very good rugby and they don't have the talent to play very good rugby. It's that they've almost hedged their bets because they know that the way they play is a lot safer and more predictable, so they could coach the same players to keep playing that way, right? South Africa, if they wanted to, have the talent to play like Fiji. They have the talent to play like New Zealand. They have the talent to play an Australian style of game where it's, all court, pass, but like running it from their own 22, very rarely kicking it, but also being really shored up at line-out time and scrum time. But they manage the game much better and they have such World Cup success because of their style of playing. But I do think against England, that's the only team that, if England can front up, that isn't as easy a route to win as if they'd have played all court. If England were playing New Zealand in this game, I do think New Zealand would win because of the way New Zealand play. Now, England have one more game. We'll preview the final if that happens, and it happens to be England versus New Zealand. We'll preview it that way. But this is my clearly somewhat biased opinion. This pick was been locked in with my heart way more than it has been done with my head. So forgive me. I'm not putting any money on this. I'm just doing this for fun. So let me know how wrong I am in the comments below. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. These two matches will be big occasions. I do think that was one of the things that made the quarterfinals that much bigger occasions, was that both the South Africa and the New Zealand games were at Stade de France, and that stadium was pumping. Marseille was all right, but it wasn't the same as Stade de France. So we'll see as the Argentines head into Paris and as the English and the Saffers head into Paris, how loud and how big of an occasion these two semi-finals will be. And will we see an upset, or will we see a very, very predictable, like someone that didn't know anything about rugby for the past 20 years, hadn't watched any rugby, you said, who's going to be the final of the Rugby World Cup? And they would have probably said, probably New Zealand and South Africa. Is that going to be the final, or are we going to see an upset? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up button if you've made it all the way to the end. That really does help out the channel and helps this video get seen by more people, which is always a good thing, and it costs you absolutely nothing. All right, see you next one.